Right, so we're going to start by attaching our cords to our MDF. So we're going to fold the first one in half and feed the little loop underneath the circle and then over the circle itself, and take the legs and feed it through the resulting loop. That's called a reverse lark's head knot, because the little rope that runs over the front of the knot is at the back. So when we flip it over, it becomes a lark's head knot. Next, we're going to feed one of the legs underneath and then over the MDF and back out through the little loop on that was resulting underneath it. Pull that tight and do the same on the other side. Now just keep going until you've attached all of the cords. You just need to make sure that you pull the cords nice and tight so that they are even when you're attaching the rest of them as well. So you just keep going until all of the cords are attached. Next one. So this time I'm going from over, because obviously I want the knots to show. So you can see here, if I'm coming from over the top, it means that the knots that I'm creating are actually showing. If you do it the other way around, the little loop is hidden at the back. So it depends, visually what you would like to have. I quite like the look of it because it adds some extra detail, so I left it. So just keep going and keep attaching all of your cords. So going over, feed the legs through the loop, and then on each side of the knot itself, feed the legs through, bring them from under and then out through the loop and pull that tight, and just adjust the cords as you go along. Push them together and pull them tight to make sure that they sit nicely, and keep doing that until you have attached all of your 30 cords. Now obviously if you have a different sized hoop, you need to change the amount of cords that you have. Right, so I've attached all of my cords, and I'm just going to arrange the cords around the MDF so that I'm happy there's no gaps, and just push them together so that they all look neat and tidy. Next step is to separate out 6 cords per section. As I was mentioning earlier, if you have a bigger MDF or even a smaller one, it doesn't really matter if you have different amounts of cords, as long as the number of cords that you have after you've attached them is divisible by 6, because each section we are creating is using 6 cords. So we're going to take the outermost cord on the left as our core cord, so put it in your right hand, and we're going to be attaching the next 2 cords to it with a left double half hitch, which goes anti-clockwise out to the left, and then you pull it tight and repeat. There's always 2 revolutions to 1 double half hitch, as the name implies. So pull that tight, take the next and attach it with a left double half hitch and pull that through. And I'm coming down a little bit of an angle so that I have a gap, and this will create the sort of triangular shape. So attach these cords and set aside the left 3 cords, and we're going to move on to the right. So put the outermost right cord in your left hand and loop the next 2 cords around in a clockwise motion, and then out to the loop on the right and pull tight. And remember to repeat, because there's 2 revolutions per knot. Repeat that. So once the last cord is attached, we're going to bring in our different colored cords, and we're going to fold these in half, and just like we've attached them to the MDF, we're going to attach these with a reverse lark's head knot. So the loop goes over the top of the core cord, feed the legs through, and then pull that tight. Now this time we're not going to attach the legs, we're going to leave it as is. So going to do the same on the other side. So fold it in half, loop from underneath, and pull the legs out through the little loop, and that will hide the little loop running over the top of the knot at the back, because in this instance we don't want to see it, because we want a smooth row. Now attach the left core cord to the right core cord with a right double half hitch. Remember to do that twice and pull that tight, and that's the first triangle created. Next, take the left hand core cord, or it's going to turn into a core cord, and we're going to be attaching all of the left hand cords to that core cord with left double half hitches. So we're going to be carrying on with the same technique until all of the cords, including the new white ones in this case, cords have been attached. and just straighten your row as you go along. This will help to keep the work neat and pull that nice and tight. So keep going over and attach, and then we're doing the last one. We're going to set the whole thing aside, and we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So once you're done, just move over to the other side. We're going to take the right outmost cord on the other side and put it in your left hand. This is going to be our core cord, and then we're going to attach the next right outmost cord in line with a right double half hitch. So you loop it clockwise over the core cord, and then once again and out towards the right, and this is called a right double half hitch because we're knotting from left to right. There we go. We're doing the last one as well. And straighten it out. And lastly, we're going to be attaching the left, and lastly we're going to be attaching the right core cord to the left core cord with a left double half hitch, and this will tie off the triangular shape. We're going to repeat all of this for all of the next sets of 6 until you have a full circle. So repeat this until everything is attached. So what we're going to do next, we're going to take 2 of those triangular shapes. We're going to separate them out, and we're only going to take the innermost 5 cords on each side. So we've got 2 of our whites and 3 of our purples. We're going to begin with the innermost purple cord. This is going to be our core cord, and we are attaching all of the cords on the left to that with right double half hitches. So it is over clockwise motion, and do this twice again. And now this time when you are attaching, you don't want the row to be quite as close to the first row as we had before. We don't want it to touch, so we're going to come away a little bit at an angle, because what we're going to do is create a little sort of moon shaped circle, not really moon shape but circular shape. So we need to start off by coming away from the previous row, and we're doing this by pulling the core cord towards you as you knot, and this will open up a gap. Next, switch hands. Put the core cord in your right hand, because we are also knotting, switching knot direction. So we've been knotting right double half hitches all along. Now we are tying left double half hitches. So go anti-clockwise over the core cord, pull it out towards the left and pull it tight. What this does is switch knot direction, and it will create the sort of curved shape that you see emerging here. So keep doing this until all of the cords have been attached. So you can see that the curvature has got sort of the same, it matches up from the start point to the bottom point. Attach the last cord, and it brings it to a point, and we're going to later on attach the core cord coming out of this row to the core cord that will be emerging from the other side. So once you've attached all of these, we'll set them aside. We're going to do exactly the same thing from the other side. Now remember, when you're knotting on the other side, this is a mirror image. So when we started off, we were tying right double half hitches. We are starting off with left double half hitches. So we're putting our core cord in our right hand, and the working cords are attached by going anti-clockwise out towards the right and pull tight. Remember, do this twice and repeat. Now, one important trick and a tip that I keep telling my students is that your core cord always needs to be over the top when you're tying double half hitches. That way there's no question about which direction you need to knot. So you need to make sure it's always over the top, and that will help you a great deal. And pull that tight. So once we've attached the last cord, we need to reverse knotting direction again. So switch core cords, make sure you pass it over the working cords at all times. Attach the last one. Switch hands. So put it in your left hand, and the working cords, you can see I pull them underneath everything. All right, so we're going to be attaching the first cord in line and going to go clockwise over and out through the loop and left, and pull it out towards your right. And you keep doing this in sequence until all of the cords are attached. I always tell my students that, you know, there may be lots of cords in a project, but you only ever pick up 2 and work with 2. So you concentrate on 2 at a time, and it won't be so daunting when you've got lots of cords in a project like this one maybe. So attach, and now we're going to do the same thing. We need to close off the pyramid, and I'm going to be attaching the left hand core cord to my right hand core cord with a right double half hitch. Pull that tight. And that's that created. So we're going to do exactly the same for the next sets of 2. So set these cords aside and repeat that with the next sets of 2. So we're going to rotate it like so and repeat the exact same process, and you'll have the exact same sets of cords each time you rotate it and repeat the process. So next it's time to create the fringe section. So for that we're going to bring in the scissors and trim off the cords roughly about 5 centimeters. You can shape it later. I always have the philosophy of having rather too much than too little. You can always adjust it later, so cut off a little bit too much rather than, a little bit too little rather than too much, because it's easier to cut off more than to add in more cord. So going to open up the thread. So depending on what kind of threads you've got, there's different ways to do this. This is twisted cord, so it's easy. So you just untwist and open these up, and you do this for all of the cords around the project. So you need to twist and undo. And next I'm going to bring in a little comb. You can use whatever you have available. This is just a little sort of travel comb that I had. It's very handy for that. And I'm going to brush, and make sure that you brush so that everything is lined up straight and there's no stragglers behind that may be crooked at the back of it. So make sure you check. And you do this for all of the cords available, and next lift it up and trim it off. You can also hang it on the wall to do this if you prefer, but it makes quite a mess, so I prefer to do it over a board so I can capture the thread ends, because it is quite messy. So just make sure that you kind of keep at the same length as you go around, and keep referencing back to your first one, because you don't want to end up with one that is much shorter than the other. So make sure you reference. I keep brushing them as well, and then go back and adjust. And this is it. So this is a lot of fun to do as well, because it's the final step and it shapes your piece. So keep doing that until you're satisfied with the results. As I said, you know, keep adjusting and having a look to make sure that everything is straightened out. And that's that. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully see you soon.